Zen. Tonight's Dharma talk is given by Myung-Jin and San.
The Buddha's having a bad day. He woke up with a headache. He had stubbed his toe on a rock that had been covered over by a palm frond. His omniscient Buddha eye could not see through the palm frond. Even though he was being mindful of the palm frond, the rock still won. He woke up and he was just kind of, off. To which you might say, hold on there. He's the Buddha. He's not supposed to have any of those negative-ish kind of feelings or emotions or anything like that. To a large extent, that's true. He did exhibit equanimity in most cases. He was, certainly kind and compassionate and all that stuff. But, nobody said he was perfect. Even he didn't say he was perfect. He just had a bad day. That kind of day doesn't often make it into a sutra or a sutta. It's not a great teaching, I suppose. Although there were some times that did make it into the teachings. So there, for example, is one sutta, and this is a quote from it. "And to whom, worthless man, do you understand me to have taught the Dharma like that? Haven't I, in many ways, said of dependently co-arisen consciousness? Apart from the requisite condition, there is no coming into play of consciousness. But you, through your own poor grasp, not only slander us, but dig yourself up by the root and produce much demerit for yourself that will lead to your long-term harm and suffering." End quote. Kind of cranky there. Here's one. Quote, "Of whom do you know, foolish man, that I have taught him the teaching in that manner? Did I not, foolish man, speak in many ways of those obstructive things, that they are obstructions indeed, and that they necessarily obstruct him who pursues them? Sense desires, so I have said, bring little enjoyment and much suffering and disappointment. The perils in them are greater. Sense desires are like bare bones, have I said. They are like a lump of flesh. They are like a snake's head, have I said. They bring much suffering and disappointment. The perils in them are greater. But you, O foolish man, have misrepresented us by what you have personally wrongly grasped. You have undermined your own future and have created much demerit. This, foolish man, will bring you much harm and suffer for a long time." Emphasis my own, obviously. Although, it may be not entirely incorrect. And one of my favorite ones, we'll skip to this one. There's two that I want to bring up here. This is like my second favorite one, okay? From the Katuma Sutta. Preached at the Amalakivana in Katuma, some new members of the order dwelling near the Buddha made so much noise that they were summoned and asked to leave at once. But the Sakyans of Katuma and Brahma Sahamapati interceded on their behalf, and they were allowed to return. The Buddha then preached to them that just as 4 terrors await the man who enters the water, waves, crocodiles, whirlpools, and sharks, so there are 4 terrors awaiting the monk: temper, gluttony, the pleasures of the senses, and women. And undoubtedly my favorite of these, because it involves Ananda. And if a family member can't push your buttons, who can? A bunch of monks that you have to say, pipe down, sure. But a family member, can't beat them. So this is from the Kalyana Mitata. Ananda enthusiastically declares, "This is half of the holy life, O Lord. Admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie." The Buddha replies, "Don't say that, Ananda, don't say that. Admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie is actually the whole of the holy life. When a monk has admirable people as friends, companions, and comrades, he can be expected to develop and pursue the Noble Eightfold Path." There was something in the Shurangama, I was positive, although I couldn't find it, where the Buddha gave Ananda kind of a dressing down. In fact, I once described it to a teacher as the Buddha gives Ananda a beatdown sutra, and I was chastised for that because of the contemporary aversion to violence we have. And okay, I didn't mean beat down as like literally, just like a phrase but it didn't matter. I was admonished anyway, and I took it. I don't think we could say the Buddha, like his anger, I wouldn't even call it anger, it's annoyance, vexations, kind of again, Ananda, weren't you listening? Weren't you paying attention? It's not like he was verging on chariot rage, let's say. But he could get kind of annoyed. Bunch of monks too noisy? Yeah, that could really, set your day off in the wrong direction. There was the monk with diphtheria that all of the other bhikshus just sort of like, okay, diphtheria, we'll just back away a little bit here. And the Buddha, and Ananda with him that time, actually said, "Hey, this guy is sick. You're not helping him. What up with that?" In a Zen context, we're told that we should feel things fully and then let them pass. Even if it's vexation, even if it's happiness. Feel it fully, and then let it go. As I like to say, do not hold on to it past its expiration date. The Buddha, while mildly vexed or annoyed by these many things, didn't let it ruin his whole day. He let go of them. The feelings passed, they passed. On to the next thing. Goodbye, vexation. Hello, mild amusement. There's a reason that virtually every statue of the Buddha that we see, he's got that little kind of upturned mouth, kind of a little smile. We want to memorialize him like that he's just like always the chillest guy you could find. His equanimity was unsurpassed. And that's probably true. I don't know if there are grades of equanimity or not, but more often than not, I would say the Buddha exhibited equanimity. But there were times when he didn't. He got annoyed at these people, these foolish mans. There's some other ones where the admonishment is a little bit more severe than foolish, or some translations that are a little bit more severe than foolish. What he did, as opposed to what we normally do, like I said, you feel them, you feel the vexation. Okay, hey, you're too noisy. Pipe down. You're missing the teachings. All of his admonishments were done with some degree of compassion or at least skillful means. Like when somebody's out misrepresenting the Dharma, he could, get rather ticked off about it and, do whatever he needed to do using skillful means to try and correct the situation. The difference is, though, that once the correction was made, or the admonishment, it was done. He let it go. Moved on to the next moment. For us, we can very easily slip into shooting ourselves with the second arrow, as Robert is so fond of using, where there'll be something that hits us and it's like, oh no, that hurts. And then we'll shoot ourselves with a second arrow saying, yeah, but I'm not supposed to be hurt by that. Like somebody cut you off in traffic. You got ticked off at him. You can either get ticked off at him and let it pass, or you can get ticked off at him and then say to yourself, bad Buddhist, bad. I'm not supposed to feel like this. I'm supposed to always have that little quarter grin and, perfectly chill sort of demeanor. And it's like attachment to an ideal or a perfection or anything else that is virtually impossible to live up to is a hindrance. It takes you away from the great way. And we all do it. We all have these little vexations. We all get ticked off. We all have somebody that's keeping us awake at night because they're too loud. And most beneficial would be if we just let them pass. When the people quiet down, it's like, okay, they're quiet now. I can go back to bed. When the car is gone, actually used his blinker later. That's a Massachusetts in-joke, by the way. It's past, literally and figuratively. We don't hang on to these things, and when we let go of them, we don't leave claw marks because we really want to hang on to them. I really want to make him pay for that thing he did that made me angry. And meanwhile, this person that quote unquote made you angry is nowhere to be seen and has probably forgotten all about everything. And, you were there shaking your fist and shooting yourself with that second, maybe third arrow, creating more suffering for yourself. And it all exists right between these two things. We create the vexation, we create the hanging on, we create the admonishment of ourselves for being bad Buddhists. It's all made by our thinking. So if we realize that, it probably would make it easier to let these things pass. And maybe eventually that does help. It may not help in that particular moment, but we know these things pass. We know they're impermanent. We know everything is changing, like our emotions, like our situations. Let it go. Let it pass. Allow yourself to have a bad day or a bad moment when you wake up with a headache, or if you stubbed your toe on, the bed frame or whatever. Just feel it fully, let it go, and then while you're at it, see who out there might be having a really bad day. See who might have received some really bad news and is really torn up by it. That makes stubbing your toe pale in comparison. Maybe they need your compassion more than you need your own anger.